Hello, hello, and happy Monday, DDs. Hope everyone is having a great start to the week. Welcome to another edition of Titan Talk. I'm Isiah. Got Killgoon with me, as usual, and we're here to just kick it, talk some SMITE 2 with you all. Big day today. The plan is to hopefully get Closed Alpha 7 out in your hands later on this afternoon. I know the team is working through just a few last-minute issues before we release the update to live servers.
Yeah, just a few kind of issues that we need to work through before we push it live. We were initially hoping to go live this morning. I think right now it's looking like kind of late afternoon time frame, but things can always change. If the issue that we're working on doesn't get resolved, then it might be later in the day or it might be tomorrow. But we are working very diligently to get it out to you as quickly as we possibly can.
Yes. Well, while we wait on the update, the plan is later on during the show, we've got Closed Alpha 7 patch notes that we're going to walk through with you all. And just to kind of give you all an update over the course of the week, it is Thanksgiving week for us here in the U.S. So we are here today, but we will not be having a show Wednesday or Friday. We're going to be taking some time off to spend time with our families.
Yeah, my parents are already in town, so excited to spend a little bit of time with them. But yeah, if you're not American, Thanksgiving is like one of the biggest American holidays. And so Thursday, pretty much the whole country shuts down. And then most employers give people Friday off as well. And most people end up taking Wednesday off ahead of that. Exactly. So we'll be not here doing a show, but we'll be back on Monday after Thanksgiving weekend with another show.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into Closed Alpha 7 patch notes, we had a really big weekend over the past couple days with esports stuff, right? Insane. We had playoffs for NA, EMEA. If you did not tune in, you missed some bangers and some upsets.
Wild upsets. Man, the names that are not going to make it to Vegas are, so many world championship rings among them. Like, just a lot of great players that, we're thrown out by some of the new blood coming up. So it's been exciting to see the scene develop.
Right. And
I know you have graphics. Go for it.
So we talked a little bit about the LATAM teams last week that qualified, but your number one seed from Latin America is Los Lille with Zongqui, Decoy, Joel Dezaloth, Lil Hexa, and Dory.
Oh, we found him.
Oh, yeah.
We found Dory.
Yeah, we found them.
Yes.
They're coming to land.
Yes.
And then our number two seed is Team Malibu featuring Beltway, Fachicho, Kaiku, Killer, and Ufel. But moving on to what played out over the weekend, last weekend, with EMEA and NA, the teams coming to studio December 12th for EU, Team Risk, which is Variety, Lasbra, Theeks, a.k.a. Formerly known as Big Bang Things, Genetics, and Streak. Team Mockingbird from EMEA also qualified, featuring Deduin, Hero, Hawk, Calvin, and Spudio. And then last but not least, Team Smokebreak from EMEA featuring Benko,
which
a.k.a.
is Deathwalker.
Yep. Johnny, Sap7, I Silenced, and Ekrom. And then moving on to NA, team name with 5 M's qualified as the number one seed featuring Cheerio, Scream but with 5 M's, Benny Q, PBM, and Cyclone Spin. Food Drive for Globe upset Cowabunga in the upper bracket to qualify for LAN featuring Karmic, Valo, Globe, Happen, and Tegvir. And then last but not least, Borscht beat out Scrumptious and Cowabunga in the lower bracket to qualify, featuring Fino K, Rat Milk, Baskin, Awesome Jake 408, and Pagon. So a lot of familiar names, but I know a lot of the esports crew was really expecting Cowabunga and Giovanni Giorgio from EU to qualify, and they're not on the list. It's insane week of esports.
Yeah, I saw a tweet that was no offense to the players mentioned, but like Nika didn't make it, Paul didn't make it, Aurora, like a lot of these players but Awesome Jake is still standing. It's like, dude, it's great to see people like telling their stories, right? Like, that's the good thing about esports. It's a good thing about like anything else, where it's like you are not defined by what happens to you in a single moment, right? It's like how do you overcome adversity? How do you triumph, and where do you leave your mark, right? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely we'll have some really cool storylines playing out when LAN starts in studio December 12th.
I'm stoked. We'll have everybody here. The studio, I'm sure, will be hopping, feel alive with all the players. So it'll be fun.
Cool. All right, well, I've got SMITE 2 Closed Alpha 7 update notes up on the laptop. They're also live on smite2.com if you all want to pull up patch notes and follow along with us. But we will pull up the handy-dandy laptop and go over all the patch notes. We've got some general changes. We've also got a lot of balance changes in this update because we're kind of holding off because of esports playoffs. But to get right into it in general changes, and I will zoom in a little bit just to make the text a little bit easier to read for chat people watching. So we added support for DLSS, FSR, and XESS upscaling. added the Berserker controller layout in control settings.
And I might actually like roll back a little bit for the DLSS, FSR, XESS. These are a big community request. And basically what it does is it lets you run the game at a lower resolution and then upscale it with science to run at a faster frame rate. And some people have found that depending on what graphics card you have, this can really improve your performance. It's a big thing. So please goof around with it, see how it affects you. But everybody's system is different, so it may be a huge performance increase for you. It may be a non-existent performance increase for you, depending on where you're capped.
Cool. And then the Berserker controller layout setting is another community request.
Yes, we have been getting a lot of requests having Berserker being able to be selected by default. So we got that in. So thanks to the team for making that happen. So now you can select Gladiator, Savage, or Berserker by default. And then in console SMITE now, you can remap every single button yourself. So those should be good starting points to get you to any of the other controller layouts. What we found is that, like, based on our data, these are the three most popular by a lot, and really the other two are the most popular by a lot. And then there's maybe 5% of players or something like that use Berserker. So we don't currently have plans to add the few remaining defaults that were in SMITE 1 because we don't believe they were very used. But you should be able to reconfigure your own controls now to do that if you want to. Cool.
Next up, we made improvements to the in-game combat log to display information more clearly. I know that's a big deal.
Yes.
Off-screen damage numbers in this update. I know that was something that people have been asking about. That's something that, I don't know, just something about having that. You hit it, you throw it the Enderso scythe, and you throw it around, and just being able to get that visual clarity. Did that hit or did that not hit? Yes. I know it's a big deal. So
it's one of the biggest feels things I think that we were still missing. I mean, there's more stuff out there that we know of, but like. This is a big one, and it was actually a surprisingly big arc of work. So, but just like now I can cuckoo ult, and I can speed up and run away, and then I still get the big numbies, and I know that I hit them, right? Like, it's really a big difference. So I'm excited that that's in there now.
Yeah, cool. We added god names to the exclusive cosmetic item descriptions for their titles, card effects, and global emotes to differentiate them better in the player loadout, and also just make it a little bit more clear. If you're just in the screen browsing them,
how do I get this
exactly?
Thing?
Whose Ascension Pass do I need to grind to unlock this thing? So another big quality of life improvement. Touched on this during the last show or last Wednesday. Made some changes to the god screen with a new upgrade to the environment art. Looks really clean.
Yes. I think this turned out really good, and it also is a good piece of tech that we can expand upon later, right? It's not just a placeholder thing. We did it the right way. So we can do a lot of things with it in the future.
Yeah. Next up, I'm going to scroll down a little bit because I have another picture. There's a new match settings pop-up to choose manual versus auto build or auto skill while you are in the draft lobby now. So I know there's something that we have in SMITE 1 to where you can pull up the screen to select how you're going to load up into the match. So that's another big quality of life improvement.
Yep.
Next up, moving on to Conquest.
I'm 99% sure this is in here. I don't know if it's anywhere else on the patch notes, but I would assume it would have been in that area. So I'm just going to say this. If it's not here, then it will be in a soon future update. Another community request that came up a lot in chat was the ability to disable jumping. And we did add a settings for that, which I believe is in this update. So you can now turn off jumping if you want to not jump and just have your key do interact things. So
cool. Moving on to Conquest, we updated the Fire Giant buff material that applies to gods to be brighter and more intense, just to make it a little bit more clear when a player has Fire Giant buff. Conquest versus AI, lots of stuff here, so we adjusted bot behavior and game mode balance to help facilitate faster co-op matches. Adjusted balance specifically for the Conquest versus AI, increased gold spooling rate, gold and XP gain, as well as Tower and Phoenix protections. And then God bots on the human team will now try to do plays around Gold Fury, Fire Giant, and Tower and Phoenixes, and then reduce the likelihood of God bots on the enemy team to defend their late game structures. So
yes, so I would say we're just going to keep making the bots better.
Exactly.
Right. I think I've said this before on the show, and I'll probably say it again. I think they're already a lot better than the SMITE 1 bots. Like, I have seen bots in SMITE 1 try and jungle and just die to camps over and over. I think that they start to do some really interesting things. It's a difficult behavior line to walk of like making them interesting to play against, but not just too good, right, for new players to play against as well. So I think we're still working on that. And, hopefully eventually we'll get to multiple bot difficulties and all that. But yeah, definitely getting better.
Yeah, cool. All right, we've already talked a whole lot about the new gods coming in this update. We've got Thor, Cupid, and Poseidon in this update. If you missed out on the show last Wednesday, you can definitely pull up patch notes here and read through all of the changes ability by ability and check out all the fancy new features that are bolded. That way you can tell immediately if something's new on a character or not. So we won't spend a whole lot of time on these, but lots of cool stuff for Thor, Poseidon, and Cupid. Cupid's seeing a lot of +1 love.
Yeah,
for sure.
Lot of new stuff for Cupid, plus all new model. And Thor also has a big model update. Poseidon has a big model update. I think that this is a really good wave of gods. So I'm excited to see what they do on the battleground.
Cool. Well, we will move right along to God balance, and we can talk about the Morrigan up first, getting a buff. So on the general side of things, we increased the health from 583 plus 97 per level to 595 plus 99 per level. Deadly aspects, we're increasing the damage, and then confusion, decreasing the cooldown on the Morrigan.
Yep. Should just be a nice little buff. I will just add real quickly before we go through all the balance stuff that this balance was all drafted and implemented before the tournament this weekend, right? So we got some additional feedback about certain things after the tournament from a lot of players because they didn't want to give up their secret strats beforehand. So some things that maybe got pulled out during the tournament that we didn't realize were as powerful or whatnot. We will continue to balance from this point. That this doesn't necessarily have all of the feedback from last weekend. I would say.
Anubis is up next, seeing a nerf. I know he's prioritized a lot over the weekend. So Death Gaze decreased the damage scaling per tick and increased the cooldown. That is the ultimate ability. So that's going to be 90 seconds at all ranks. Neith is up next and getting a buff. Haven't really seen a whole lot of Neith on the battleground.
She was really good. Yep. And then I think maybe we went a little too hard, and she's not really good. So.
That and just as we release more gods, people would prioritize this newer gods. So Spirit Arrow on Neith going to be getting an increase to the damage scaling, and then Unravel also increasing the damage scaling.
Adding some strength scaling to the Unravel, I think, is a big thing too.
Yeah.
So it should help enable more of the traditional hunter play style if you want to.
Yeah, I know we buffed a lot of the strength hunter items, so Neith is starting to build those. She gets some benefit on the scaling damage from Unravel. Hecate up next, getting a buff. Spell Eater increasing the damage scaling from 45% int to 50 int. And then Repel Magic increasing the movement speed that she gets from this from 5% scaling up to 15%. 15% at all ranks. So that early game is she's going to be getting a lot of movement speed.
And there is still movement speed in Smite 2, but I feel like it's a little bit rarer than in Smite 1, or I don't know. Somehow it behaves differently, right? So I feel like this will be very strong in Smite 2.
All right, moving right along. Thanatos getting a couple buffs here. Death Scythe increasing the damage scaling, and then Soul Reap also increasing the damage scaling. So just playing into that really one-shot glass cannon playstyle, just giving a little bit more damage. Nemesis, I believe this is the first character that was introduced in CA6, getting some balance, getting a buff, Slice and Dice, increasing the damage and the center damage, and then Retribution, going to be decreasing the cooldown from 14 seconds at all ranks to start at 14 down to 12 seconds. So, solid Nemesis.
Having that up a little more often. Yeah.
Next up, Cuckoo, going to be seeing a buff. Slipstream, increase the dash damage and then decrease the cooldown so you can get that dash off a little bit more often. And then Whirlwind, we increase the damage per tick. So Cuckoo going to be seeing a little bit of love there. And then our poor Danza, I feel like he came out and was kind of on the lower end of things. And we've been trying to show him some love, but he's just not there yet. So he's going to be getting a couple buffs here. So Fool's Gold, going to be increasing the subsequent hit damage. And then Alluring Spirits, going to be increasing the heal per tick. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off before you're...
No, you're good. I was just going to say, I think the Cuckoo change was meant to just kind of encourage people to play around the new feature on Slipstream a little bit more, right? Because I think it is a powerful thing that a lot of people just aren't doing very often.
Yeah. All right, next up, Baron Samedi, seeing a couple of nerfs here. He is definitely a party goer, was prioritized really, really heavily, especially yesterday on the NA side of things. I think FineOK played like 5 games in a row of Baron and just killed it every time. So Consigned Spirits, we're going to be decreasing the missing health heal from 5% to 2.5%, and increasing the cooldown to 14 seconds at all ranks. And then Life of the Party, the ultimate, going to be increasing the cooldown from 90 seconds to 100 seconds. So hopefully the party calms down just a little bit with Baron Samedi after these changes.
One day we will stop nerfing Baron,
Yeah.
but today is not that day.
Yeah.
And it may not be tomorrow either. It may still be more that we need to do. I think that, he's just he's a very fun god to play.
Yeah.
He does a lot of things. And kind of the versatility of stuff in his kit makes him hard to get into line.
Yeah.
So we'll keep working on it. And hopefully he'll be more fun to play against.
Yeah. Cool. All right, next up, Ra. Going to be seeing a nerf here, Divine Light. So we are going to be shifting the solar ray damage. So these are the enhanced autos. They're going to be going from 60 to 185 plus 30 int at all ranks, down to 30 to 160 plus 45% int. And then we're decreasing the duration of the buff that actually gives you the enhanced autos from 3 to 5 seconds down to 2 to 4 seconds. So I know we got a lot of feedback about Ra solo being really, really powerful, just basically utilizing these enhanced autos. So we're taking the damage down and decreasing the duration of that buff to try and help that out.
Yeah, and if you want those autos to deal damage, you're going to have to build damage.
Yep.
Right? Like, I think when characters have too high of base values is usually when they do well in solo lane, right? Because they want to be building a lot of tanky stats usually, or utility items, whereas you're just going to have to build some more int to get full advantage of it now.
Yep. All right, and then last up for God Balance, Ymir getting some buffs. So Frostbite, we're going to be increasing the damage dealt from the debuff from 10% to 15%, and then Frost Breath, the stun, we're going to be decreasing the cooldown. 14 seconds at all ranks. So
yeah, I think this is both of these are pointed at making him just a little bit of a better support, right? I think that he's a very aggressive support right now, right? And now it's like, okay, well, the damage debuff is better. You can freeze a little more often, right? You can do more supporty things.
Yeah. All right, and we can move right along to item balance. Oh, someone in chat said Rod nerfs finally. Yes, Rod nerfs coming in closed alpha 7. You heard it here first.
Yeah, and I see chat saying, the real problem with Ra is that his autos are proccing Glass Shield and Phoenix, right? And it's like, sure, but we don't want to create different rules for each ability, right? We really want universal rules that work. So we're always going to try and balance things first in a way where it's like, let's not add a special rule to it that this ability doesn't proc a thing, because then it's like, oh, we have to remember that just for this character, it just gets weird and you end up with all these edge case niche rules. Yeah. So we'd rather say, can we get Ra into a good balanced state without having to touch the way that his procs work only for Ra and changing a consistent rule otherwise across the game.
Cool. All right, moving right along. Items. Deathbringer up first. Going to be seeing a buff, increasing the strength from 40 to 45, and also increasing the critical chance. So wasn't in the round of the strength kind of carry focused buffs that we did. So Deathbringer going to be seeing a buff here. Stampede also seeing a buff. Really fun item. Going to be decreasing the cost. I think this is kind of in line with some of the other changes that we've done to just kind of beef up active items a little bit more.
Yep.
There is going to be a new Tier 1 and Tier 2 Sash and Survivor Sash added to the game. So Sash is going to be 300 gold and 2 health regen. Survivor Sash builds from Rune and Sash. It's going to be 750 gold, 15 magical protections, and 4 health regen. And then this is going to be slated into the recipes for some of the other items. So Olmec Blue up first, adjusted the recipe from Medallion to Medallion plus
scroll
Sash.
A little bit. You can't see it.
Yep. Sorry.
Thank you.
Boom. Cool. Olmec Blue. So we adjusted the recipe from Medallion to Medallion plus Sash and increased the health regen because, of course, Sash has that health regen. So Amanita Charm, increasing the health regen from 2 to 4, and then Hide of the Nemean Lion, increasing the health regen from 2 to 4 as well.
And 2 health regen is actually just pretty strong by itself. There's maybe a world where you just want to build that at level 1 as a stat stick, right? Even if you don't want to build the things that it builds into.
Right.
So I think that's an interesting new item to add.
Cool. We've got another Tier 2 component, Fencer's Buckler. So this is going to build from bow and shield, and it's going to be 800 gold, 10% attack speed, and 10% physical protection. And then Berserker Shield going to be seeing a buff. Adjusted the recipe from Olmec Blue plus Hunter's Bow to Survivor Sash plus Fencer's Buckler, and remove the health on this item, and we're adding 20 of each protection.
Nice.
So, next up, Talisman of Purification, going to be seeing a nerf. Decrease the cooldown rate from 20 to 15.
Talisman of Purification is
it's
just really good, right?
Yep.
I think that's an item that will probably be getting more nerfs over the, like we want people to have strong active items. We have found that if you just have a strong effect on an active item, people don't want to buy it because it needs to have some stat benefit as well. Even if the item is incredibly good. Like this was one of the things that we learned this lesson in early Smite 1 and we've kind of learned it again here.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you guys remember back in early Smite 1, you had to buy your relics. You had to spend gold to get your relics, right? And players would, like, until you were like a really good player, you would not buy relics. Like you would be like, oh no, I'd rather get 20 extra damage than I would rather get beads, you know? And people would make that choice routinely. So I think to get people interested in items and to make it feel like you aren't sacrificing your potential, these items still need to have like some stats on them. But when we have these really powerful effects like Talisman of Purification, it's like, how do we get the effect plus the stats plus the cost all in the good place, right? So I think that this is another step. I have a feeling this item will get nerfed again because it's real good. But yeah.
Cool. All right, next up, Eye of Providence. Going to be seeing a buff decrease the cost from 2,400 to 2,300.
Just more wards.
More wards.
We need more wards.
All right, and then last up on the list, we've got another active item seeing a buff. We adjusted the self-damage on Eye of the Storm from true damage to magical damage. And then we increased the self-damage per second from 2.5 max health to 3% max health. So I believe if you're building some magical protections into Eye of the Storm, be able to benefit a little bit more because it is now magical damage that you're dealing to yourself to get that vortex instead of true damage.
Yeah, interesting. I guess it makes it a better tank item. Yeah, because you're like, when it's just true health percent health or true damage percent health damage, then it's like you're gonna die in the same amount of time if you're a jungler or if you're yeah, it makes sense.
All right, next up, bug fixes. A lot of stuff. Do you want to go through all the bug fixes?
Oh, geez.
There's a lot.
let's kind of skim along and see, is there anything interesting here? Oh, this is a big one. You can no longer hit towers through the walls with Roz 2. That was a big one. A lot of effects things. Godbots getting stuck pathing around minions is something that we fixed, which is good. Yeah, a lot of these. Oh, Athena's reach going through walls. That's a good one. Minion basic attack damage not scaling from new WAS, big one.
Oh, we got this on Titan Talk.
Yes, we did get this one at Titan Talk. We fixed this one because
the
Danzo could not fire his ultimate while crippled. Has been fixed. So, yay. The Fenrir ultimate issues too. We got those fixed. We think we got them all fixed, I will say. There may be a couple things outstanding still, but like, please let us know. The ultimate should feel a lot better and not have that weird like hitchiness that could happen sometimes.
Let's see here. I know we got this in the Ambassador Discord about Yamoja's Moonstrike VFX not being super visible, so that's a good one.
The Soul Jump one was another one that's come up on Titan Talk a couple times, so you can jump while you're disapparated now, unless you disable jump with the new setting. And Zeus's Chain Lightning does not bounce 99 times.
Yes. All right. UI. What else do we have here?
Looks like console navigation for the scoreboard got fixed. Yeah, just a lot of little polished things here. Nothing that's huge community requests probably, but all things that are good to get fixed.
The Sunbeam Bow was a big one. There was a edge case to where you could get into a state to where you could have infinite procs without losing any mana, so that one's fixed on Sunbeam Bow.
Awesome.
And then last up, a couple known issues with bots. Melee god bots often have trouble attacking the Fire Giant, and then god bots can get stuck around the Pyromancer, but those are known, and the team is looking into them.
Yep, and I would say, as always, this is just our next update, right?
Right. Yeah.
We will update again after this. We're already thinking about more balance. We're thinking about next features, next gods, right? Like, and we are 2 weeks from our next update with 3 more gods, right? So still a lot of things to look forward to, and excited to get everybody playing Thor, Cupid, and Poseidon later today, hopefully, or
a little bit later today. Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow, but hopefully later
I've been
today.
looking at my phone to see if I get a ping from the crew with any updates on release timing, but if we don't get anything by the end of the show, just keep an eye out on our official social media channels, and we will definitely let you know whenever that maintenance starts for Closed Alpha 7.
We're expecting later this afternoon still, but there may be something that goes wrong that pushes it to tomorrow.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, that is everything that we had to cover today. We went over some esports, went over closed Alpha 7 patch notes. So let's just open it up for community Q&A.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. And this is a reminder, this is your one chance this week to ask us questions, because we're not going to be here on Wednesday or Friday. So get your questions out there and we'll answer as many as we can. Oh, here's one. Are you guys planning on bringing Death Recap back? Yes, we are. So one of the things that we talked about on the patch notes is that the what's it called? The T, is it the T screen that shows the damage you taken?
I think so, yeah.
But the damage taken screen has been updated a little bit.
Log.
Right, the combat log. And that is part of the work to get to damage or death recap. So yes, you will get a death recap. It should be a lot easier to read than previously too. So the idea is we want people to be able to quickly process, where did the damage come from, what's killing me, what items do I need to build, or what do I need to be playing against. So hopefully it's good, and it will be coming soonish. I will answer this one too, because it's something that's on our roadmap.
Cool.
Are people playing, as people are playing more and unlocking more global emotes, is it possible to get more slots for global emotes? Like maybe make the VGS options be VXE 1 through 9 or 1 through 5. Yes, this is on our list. The blocker is actually the UI to be able to equip them to multiple slots. We could just very easily add the VXE 2 through 4 or whatever to be able to just have more. But the UI to be able to equip them to multiple slots is a little bit of work, and we have some other UI that just needs to get done first. Like I feel like people would rather have a death recap than have the ability to equip multiple global emotes. But we understand that like these new global emotes are sick, and people want to be using more of them, especially like because a lot of them are reactions.
It's situational, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I want to be able to react to things with them. So we definitely want to have people able to equip more of those. Are there any hidden features in this update? There are probably things that we forgot to put on the patch notes, because our patch note process is a lot less formal than it used to be because we're moving so fast. So there are probably a few things that we forgot about, but I mean, nothing huge, I would say. This is a silly one. I like silly ones. And then you pick the next one. What fighting game would you want to cross over with if licensing rules didn't apply? Do you have an answer?
I'm a big fighting game fan. I think Street Fighter, just because
Street Fighter's classic, right?
It's classic, right? It's really good.
Yeah, I think Street Fighter would be really cool. I could also go for like, I love the Guilty Gear characters.
Yeah,
like the aesthetic is so sick. Like, so I could go for that too. I feel like those would be my one of those two. Probably.
I mean, this one is cheating, but of course, Smash Brothers. You know?
Smash Brothers is crossing over with everything,
right?
You know, so it's like it's being silly.
Let's see here. Are our pentakills and overall medals being tracked, and will we get player profile tabs with all of our medals and time spent on X Gods, KD, etc.?
I think we're still working on that kind of stuff for the future. My understanding is that we are tracking that kind of stuff in the background. But it's just we don't have a way to
That's a good question.
Right
I
now.
didn't even think about like the accolades, like on the profile screen in Smite 1. How you can like go and see how many double kills, triple kills, quads, pentas that I've gotten, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think so. In part, like the trackers for your loading card was meant to not fully replace that system, but partially replace that system, right? Because it lets you show off that kind of stuff more. But in order to make it interesting, like if we just gave you a double kill tracker, right? That's like just it's not that interesting of a thing to show off on your loading card because it's not specific enough. Like we have to be relatively specific with those for them to be interesting, right? We were even talking the other day about like, it feels like we should do a pentakills one, but then it's like, you're just always going to equip your pentakills one.
Right, yeah.
And we don't want to like make it so that it's not interesting. So it's like, then do you do like, pentakill, do you just do a badge for getting a pentakill? I don't know. Like there's all sorts of weird thought processes around that we've gone into.
This is a long question, but I think the summary is how are we choosing who gets remodeled in Smite 2? Basically because, Cupid got the huge visual update, but there are other gods that the community feels like could have gotten a little bit more love. So what's the general thought process behind that?
Yeah, I think so Cupid in particular was one of the oldest models in Smite 1. And also the circumstances around how it was made were, I am 99% sure Ben told the story that like that model from start to finish was made in like 2 days. Like it was like, I think, I'm not trying to throw anybody on the bus or anything. I think Eris was like, oh, Valentine's Day is coming up, we should make Cupid or something like that. And then it was like, oh shit, let's just, quickly get Cupid into the game, right? And so I think that didn't stand, like the big head was a thing, but I don't think it fit the rest of the Smite aesthetic. And I think objectively it was not a good model, right? Whereas I think that a lot of the community concerns around certain gods we didn't model tend to be more subjective or more lore driven, I would say. Now, we definitely do consider the lore when we're creating a god's visual identity, but if players have been playing a version of a god for a long time and they like that god and objectively the model quality is good and it looks like it belongs in Smite, then we're probably going to do less to it than something that, either just like the quality level isn't there or it doesn't look like it fits with the current art style, or it's something that players just never liked, right? Whereas like, Hell and Hades are two that come up a lot in this kind of discussion, right? And we haven't done Hell yet, so you don't even know what she's gonna look like. But Hades, as as much as like you can joke around and say, oh, he's just like a Halloween character, and he doesn't look like the Hades from Greek mythology. I think that he's always been a very successful character. He always looked like he fit within the other lineup of Smite. He was a character that was one of like the box art characters for Smite for a long time. That 2v2, which has Hell in it as well, actually. I think that like characters that people liked were much less likely to and look like they fit the game and that they're high quality. Were much less likely to make drastic changes to than characters that just were objectively low quality and needed some work. So hopefully that helps explain it a little bit. I'm sure that the thing is, when it comes to decisions like this, everybody's gonna have their own feelings about like, well, I think objectively Hades is bad because of X, Y, and Z reason, right? It's like, sure, everybody has their own opinions in reality. But that's what influences the decisions that we make. Sorry, I stopped suddenly.
No
then
worries.
we didn't have another question prepped up to go.
I know, right? I was paying attention to the answer.
Because we answer this question on every show, are there any updates on Joust? Joust is still in development. It will be coming in January. It's playable right now. There's a little bit of work still to be done. We're settling on some lighting options before we start showing it more broadly. How far is Textbox? Text chat is in development. We are hoping to have a rough implementation in some places, not in the update that's hopefully going live today, but in the update that's hopefully going live in 2 weeks. So not having text chat. So there's 3 places that we need to get text chat, we feel like. They're picks and bans, in-game, and post-match. I believe it will probably be in one of those 3 places, maybe not the one that you want the most, but probably in one of those 3 places for the update that comes out in 2 weeks, just to make sure that we got the system in there and it's working at a rough level. And then hopefully, like the January update, we'll have the other places added.
How long will Smite 1 be supported after Smite 2 goes free to play? I think the simple answer is as long as people are playing it.
Yeah, as long as people are playing it, right? Like, we have no intention to turn off the servers anytime soon. There's a lot of people playing it, right? I think that there will be less new content coming to Smite 1 because as a company, almost all of our developers are 100% focused on Smite 2, right? Because we need to be working on that to make it better. I think we see the promise in where Smite 2 can go, and I think that most people that have played it recently can also hopefully feel the promise of what Smite 2 can do, right? I think it's better than Smite 1 in a lot of ways already. There are certain ways where it's not yet, and we're working on that, but I think the future for this company is Smite 2. We want people that still want to play Smite 1 to have a place to play. Like, we'd rather have you a part of the community than fall off completely, right? Especially people that are on like last gen consoles, people that maybe your favorite god isn't in Smite 2 yet, and you're like, dude, but I only play Sylvanas. Like, I can't play Smite 2 until Sylvanas is there. That's reasonable, right? Yeah. Like, so we don't want to kick you out, but like, just most of our new development focus, all of our new development focus basically is going to be going to Smite 2. There'll probably be like balance updates, and there'll probably be the servers will stay on, and you know, that's mostly what there is to look forward to on the Smite 1 side.
Yeah. Will there be ranked rewards for closed alpha ranked players? I believe Max is working on something.
Yeah, I think that this current ranked split, I want to say it's like a badge or a title or something. It's relatively small. But yeah,
something to show off
rewards,
that you were a part of the ranked test season and, you know, played your ranked games and helped us out with a lot of the matchmaking data to help us improve the ranked experience for free to play.
I probably shouldn't answer this one. But I'm
Go for it.
What is your opinion about data mining leaking stuff? Do you think it helps to create hype? I would say at this point in the game's development, we are not focused on creating hype so much as we are about making a really good game, right? So I think from that aspect, it's just not the concern right now. And though we would be doing things a very different way if our focus was like just how do we get people excited about the next release, right? You know, I wouldn't just do a slideshow where I tell you the next 50 gods, right? Like that's not an exciting way to go about it. I think in terms of like, is data mining something that we like or don't like? I would say it's the thing that I don't like about it, which colors a lot of my other opinions, are that data mining is an early look into unfinished things that will very frequently change before we actually ship them. And players, it's very difficult for a player to understand that fully and to not treat something that's data mined as like, this is gospel, this is coming, right? And so we get so many questions about things that have been data mined that it's like, that was an idea that we tested once 3 months ago and we moved on from, right? And we're never going to do it. Or maybe like we learned something from it, which is going to influence something else that we're going to do, but we can't talk about that yet because we aren't even 100% committed to doing the new thing, right? Because, you know, it's making video games is a creative, iterative process. You can't just say, this is exactly what we're going to be doing a month from now even, because you're going to test things and you're going to see what works and you're going to see what doesn't work, and you're going to follow that, right? Yeah. So I think that's the hardest part about dealing with data mining, is that it sets the wrong expectations among players, where they start to expect things that we may know is not good through our playtesting, right? Or they may get attached to an early version of a thing, like, but you guys said this was happening when we get that all the time, when we never said anything and an early version of something was data mined and people got attached to it, right? So I think that's the challenge with data mining. The only other thing that I don't like about data mining is that if we really care to prevent data mining, it's a lot of extra work on our side to try and hide something so that we can have something fun that's an actual surprise for you all. Yeah. It's like a lot of work to hide stuff from data miners. And like, I would love if we could just like, if everybody just trusted us to do cool stuff and tell you about it when we're ready to tell you about it, because like, we aren't trying to keep stuff secret from you. It's just like, you know, there's a point in the development when it becomes like a real thing that we can tell you about and get you excited about, right? So from that perspective, yes. I will say that the one thing that is nice about data mining, right, is that sometimes it does give us like that early reaction from our most invested player base about stuff that's not done yet. And sometimes we can make changes based on that feedback that we would otherwise not be able to make. I would say on the whole, I dislike it more than I like it, because of how it sets people's expectations for the wrong things a lot of the time. But if we cared that much about it, we would do more to avoid our stuff being data mineable, you know? So maybe a longer answer than it needed, but we do get data mining questions sometimes, so. Killgoon skin win? No, you don't want that. I did have a chest, but Isiah beat me.
Yes. That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
Are there any skins in this patch? I don't believe so. There will be another round that go on sale, though, for direct purchase. I can't remember the list of those skins.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week, I'm sure, because they'll turn on next week. So basically, any week when there's not a major patch when we're dropping gods, we're going to turn on 5 more skins or so, 4 or 5 more skins. So they're skins that are mostly in the game. I think they're all skins that are in the game already. It's just turning them on to be enabled for sale. We are aware about PS5 Minions Trophy not working. I'm not sure if that's fixed in this build, but we will work on it.
Cool. And I see the comment about the Zeus Tier 5 stuff. I will pass over that Discord post after the show to the team to look into.
I think I sent the Reddit post over already.
Okay,
I know they were looking at that. So if there's another Discord post, we can do that. I will say, so if a god has a unique mechanic, like a wheelish, would you push 3 challenges to add them? I think that for this first push to get to 50 gods, it was very important to us to not bring over gods that had any really hard, unique challenges, because we felt like we needed to get the base god number up very soon, right? From there, I think we will be much more willing to take some risks and do some harder gods and do things that bring over unique gameplay mechanics that are missing and needed in the game. So I would say after we get to 50, we're much more willing to do gods that have unique unique gameplay niches, right? I know that like a wheelish comes up a lot. Giannis comes up a lot. I'm sure there's other ones that come up a lot. But, like those kinds of things that have unique effects that you can't get anywhere else, right? I think we need to get that kind of thing added. It's just a matter of prioritizing. And also, like, it's always a matter about like getting, as much as chat usually doesn't care about it, getting popular gods into the game. Right. So the more, if we get a popular god into the game, then more people are probably going to move over from Smite 1 to play them because they like that god, right? Or they're going to feel more comfortable when they do move to Smite 2 because there's going to be another god that they feel comfortable playing, right? So we do care about god popularity. We just also care about how it fits the roster, Everybody wants leaks, spoilers. I don't know if there's anything exciting that I can think about off the top of my head. Who are the next gods?
So Aphrodite, Medusa, and Pele.
Yeah, I can't think of any good leaks for those off the top of my head. Sorry, chat. Sorry, we're the worst. This question about global emote being able to flood VGS, I'm not sure about that. I'll take a look. I'm taking a picture so I don't forget. Yeah, we'll look into it.
Do look at Kyle says, you can leak Smite Cart too.
I do enjoy the Smite Cart. But
are there plans for Godlike screen showing models, podiums, and boosters?
So boosters is a piece of tech that we want, but we need to build out completely. And it's like, are we going to build boosters out or are we going to build the other stuff out first? We'll get to boosters, but just not immediately. In terms of showing models or showing pedestals or showing your whole team, I think when we initially built that God Select screen, the team had a very clear vision of wanting to focus primarily on your experience, right? I think we've gotten feedback from a lot of players that they would prefer to see more about their team and what other people in their team are doing. I think that screen is not awful right now. Some of the screens need more work than others. So I would say that's probably not going to be the first screen we come back to, but I would say that we've definitely heard a lot of the feedback about wanting to have more team members shown on the screen and things like that. And Donza has a pedestal only because he's short. So it's not like full pedestal tech with like swapping out different pedestals and stuff.
Are we getting double worshiper weekends? Yes, soon. TM. I know the team is working on that. Hopefully sooner rather than later, and like hopefully really soon.
This is another example of data mining. There's a question, when does the talent system come out? I heard certain gods got certain talents in a future update. That is a data mine system, which we have not spoken publicly about at all. We're in development on a lot of new ideas all the time. And this is one of the reasons why we have issues with data mining, because people see a thing and they're like, this is definitely happening. It's like, guys, we're working on ideas. We're going to have some exciting stuff to talk about soon, but nothing right now that we can talk about on that front.
Can we add a patch of jungle grass to practice? It would be nice to test how certain abilities interact with it, or don't.
Oh, that is a good question. That's probably really easy to do. I will ask one of the mats to do that.
That is a really good point.
Yeah, good question. Can we buy ascension passes for gods yet to be released? I don't know why you would want to do that.
I don't even know how.
Yeah, I don't know how we would do that. But
like a pre-order type system,
yeah,
maybe.
I don't know. Sorry, I'm just trying to. If you have more details on why you think that's a good idea, let us know. Can we get an unkillable Emir in practice mode? Oh, just kind of like a DPS meter bot. Yeah, that's a good idea too.
So I want all the ascension passes, and since we have the card for upcoming gods, they don't want to forget to buy it. That's the reasoning. Can you make it so starter items are able to be sold? I don't think there would be a. Let me think about my late game.
Up a slot.
Yeah.
You can undo it if you buy the wrong one
at the beginning of the game
before you leave the fountain. But after that, you're kind of locked into your purchase. So, are there challenges bringing Scotty over to Smite 2? Yes, there are challenges bringing Scotty over to Smite 2. She has the Slippery Ice Tech, which is unique. She has a unique pet, which no other character has. Those are kind of the two biggest things for her tech-wise. She actually is always a more popular character than I give her credit for. So I know Katie is always like...
It's just Kitten of Doom on like 80 Smurfs. Just
is that
Scotty.
It? She's just only playing Scotty, yeah. But no, definitely a slightly more challenging god. Scotty doesn't have a pet. Calder has a pet. That's a good line. Let's see. When can we share more about the all-new god? Probably December, I would say.
We should probably talk about that post-show at some point this week. Yeah.
There's questions about like a zoom feature to see the 3D model up close. Something we can look at. Yeah, probably not coming immediately, but something we can look at. Can we get the full item shop UI on consoles instead of the scroll bars? If you change your item shop type from split to either left or centered, you will have the traditional item shop layout like on PC. What we have found is that most players strongly prefer this kind of pre-filtered tabs of offensive, defensive with the individual rows of specific stats they're looking for. It ends up being, I think, much faster to navigate if you put in a little bit of work to figure it out if you're used to the other one.
Any balance changes in today's update? Yes, we went over them earlier on in the show. If you missed out, patch notes are live on smite2.com. And I see another question about when we're adding more bands. I know that's something the team was talking about a couple days ago. I think we're thinking probably around when we get to 50 is like a good marker to add in another ranked band, but nothing's locked in quite yet. But
any challenges with Hubwa, or is he just unpopular? Or Hebo, if you are not down with the Chinese pronunciation. So one of the more interesting weird things about him, I don't think he's actually that hard, but we've had a lot of discussions internally about like, how do you treat him? Because there's two different versions of him, right? There's the old version where he's got like the water feet, and then there's the versions where he's riding the surfboard. And the surfboard ones are all skins that are kind of goofy. But if you ask any like high-level competitive player, they'll tell you need to play the surfboard version because he feels a million times better in the surfboard version. So then it's like, do you make surfboard version the base, or how do we address that? So I know that that's like one of the discussions that we have had about like how we bring him over eventually. But it's definitely, he's not an immediate god that's coming over, but I don't think he's super technically challenging. Will there be any announcements in Vegas other than esports games? We are going to do a little like kind of roadmap show. I would say it's not like a full, keynote-y kind of thing the way we've done in past years, because the game's just kind of moving at a different pace. It's at a different place than it has been in the past. But it's going to be kind of more of a, I would say like a bigger Titan talk.
Yeah.
With not me, because I will be looking at a newborn at that point in time. But I believe it's going to be Isiah, Travis, maybe Pon, maybe India, who's one of our systems designers, maybe somebody else, I don't know. Just kind of talking about some upcoming features and some plans for like who the next gods are and things like that. So should be a fun watch, but not not the traditional keynote experience. Isiah will not be snapping any necks this time.
I know, right?
Leaderboards in general are something that we know aren't up to snuff right now. Basically, right now we have a very hacky leaderboard in game, and we're talking with Rally here, which is our backend provider, which is another division of Hi-Rez, but is not part of our team. So we have to like negotiate with them to get new features in, because they have to prioritize it against their other clients and whatnot, about basically having better leaderboard support to be able to do things like showing the top, worshipers and whatnot for a god. I will say, back when we used to have the god-specific leaderboards, like it was super abused by people, where it was like I only
win
play
trading,
off hours and I win trade and I play in low pop regions, and it was always kind of like shady and not as useful as you'd think it would be. So I think it's just something that we have to keep in mind as we go forward.
Cool. Can we get esports cosmetics back, where a portion of the sale value goes towards the world's prize pool?
I would say potentially. So historically, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Like, things that are esports themed do not sell particularly well. They don't sell any better than something that is not esports themed. Right? Very frequently they sell worse than things that are not esports themed, right? And I think there's also this kind of like, I don't know, like concept that there's not really just one big pot of money at the end of the day, right? Like a portion of the sales from everything goes to fund esports, right? Esports costs us a lot of money to run. So I think like for the first Odyssey, we did that like very clearly stated a portion of the proceeds goes to this thing. For the first, I think for Poseidon, we also did that. But realistically, like since then, it's just been like, okay, esports costs us, several $1 million a year to run. And that money just comes from the money that we made that we could have used for other marketing. We could have used for, making more content. We could have hired more developers. We could have just put it in our pockets. We could have done whatever with that money. So I think this idea of having like a dedicated pot of money is, it's something that we can do, but it just, whenever we do esports specific stuff, it just doesn't sell very well. And then people are disappointed with the amount of money that it raises. So I think that's just kind of the concerns around it. Few questions about God Builder. God Builder is something that is on our roadmap, but we want to make it better than in SMITE 1. The big reason why we can't just like get it in there right now is that the store interface only exists in the game world. It doesn't exist in the front end UI. Yep. So the ability to buy things and whatnot would be quite a bit of work to get that into the front end. So we're trying to create a better way where there's almost like player created guides that can tell you about what you should be buying and what abilities you should be leveling and all that kind of stuff, which is more detail. And then you can create your own build as well, but just like we're envisioning kind of a bigger, better system if we're going to do the work anyway, and it's just a little bit further out. So I understand that it's not ideal. Hopefully we do have the auto builds that are not awful, and they kind of point you in the right direction. Also, a lot of people asking about like the 3K potions. I know there's been some discussion about this. I don't fully have the design answer on that.
I know they were talking about it. I don't have off the top of my head exactly where we're at on that though. But I know design is talking through 3K pots and like late game economy specifically.
Immortal Marshmallow has noticed a feature which nobody else has mentioned, but I am aware existed. In Smite 1, specifically, this was on by default on console, and I don't think it was on by default on PC. Before you fire off an ability, it would visually show you how much mana it would consume on your mana bar. Could we add this feature in Smite 2? No one has mentioned that they are missing this feature, so we have not prioritized this feature. It's something that I'm aware of and I brought up, but it is one of those like weird things. Like if you're playing on instant cast, you don't even notice it ever, right? If you're playing on normal cast, you probably see it the most. And I think also there's just less focus on mana like conservation in Smite 2 than there was in Smite 1 right now. So it's definitely something that apparently Hella Ronnie said it right before Immortal Marshmallow, so I credited the wrong person. Sorry, I can't read every line of chat as I'm talking. So, but yeah, it is a feature that we are aware of that I believe is still on the like long term, we need to do that list, but it just hasn't been prioritized because most people, nobody has asked for it until you right now. Yeah. So.
It's a nice feel feature, someone else says.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but a lot of feels things out there.
Does moving away from the class system in quotation marks of mage, hunter, guardian, etc., present unique, new, or unforeseen challenges, particularly when porting gods?
I would say so. I think it took away a lot of the restrictions around what a god has to be, which is good and bad, right? Because it's like you can turn a god can be anything now. So how do you enable more play styles, more opportunities around a god? I would say, the easiest thing would have been to just say like, cool, every god is exactly as they were in Smite 1, and we're just porting it over exactly the same. But then that wouldn't have been interesting, right? Yeah. So I think we had to do things like this that are fun, new systems. And I think we're going to keep working towards how do we create even more play styles and enable more opportunities for gods to work in different roles. So where it's not just like, I only see Thanatos jungle, right? Yeah. Like how do I get Thanatos solo back? How do I make all these other options more viable?
Any plans on adding a timer to VGS Ultimate is down so your teammates know your timing better?
We talked about that. I passed that along to UI.
In Smite 1, yeah.
I think that's on the to-do list. I'm pretty sure that, like, I mentioned it after a show, I think last week, somebody brought it up. So they're aware of it. I don't know exactly when it's getting in, but it's something we're at least aware of.
Yep.
Let's see. Are there any lore updates on some gods, or are you just focusing on releasing gods right now? So I would say the in-game now there is kind of a brief lore blurb for every god, and those have been reworked, rewritten to kind of fit the space and be the god, but a little bit updated for Smite 2. That's about all the lore that we're working on right now. Mostly we're just focused on getting the core game up and better.
Oh, is it one more question time? I see people in chat calling it out.
Oh, is it really?
It's 1:59.
Dude, how did
I know, right? Time just flies. All right. One more question. All right. Maybe we can do two because this is our only show today.
Yeah, we can do
two more questions.
2 more questions. Yeah. I will ask this one since this is a long-time listener, first-time watcher. Would multi-queue ever make a return to speed up queue times? And how would that work with presumably separate MMR for each mode? So the way that multi-queue worked in Smite 1, it did track MMR by each mode, and then it just was trying to match you into each of those matchmaking pools at the same time. I would say it could potentially make a return. We don't have the UI to support that right now, and I'm not sure if we have the matchmaking, like not even the matchmaking tech, but just like the back-end tech to support a player searching for multiple modes at the same time. But it is a good note, something that we should think about. I don't know if it would actually reduce your queue time, potentially if you're in a low pop region, but it just would mean that you would get into whatever queue was more populated more regularly, right? Like it would not make it shorter to queue for arena because you're queued for Arena and Conquest. Conquest is going to pop first or something like that.
Can you bring Vulkan API support in a future meeting? I'm not familiar with Vulkan
I think
API
that's the
support.
AMD graphics card stuff. Like I think it's like OpenGL. Like I think it's like a graphics engine thing. But I am not
I'm not
programmer.
well versed. Yeah.
I did minor in computer programming, but was not good enough to actually do it for a living. So yeah, we can ask.
Yeah, we can look into it for sure.
Let's see. Is there anybody locked in to join for the next update or the few after that? Yes, we posted our like the first 50 gods list. You can go and you can check that. I believe the next 3 are, I want to say, Aphrodite, Pele, and Medusa.
Yeah.
So they'll be in December 10th-ish.
Yeah. Then after that, we're taking a little bit of a break. You know, we've got the holiday season.
Yep.
So I forget which Titan Talk episode that was, but there's a Titan Talk episode. I believe we have a graphic that's pinned in the official SMITE Discord somewhere with the list of all the first 50 gods that you can go over and stuff as well.
Now there's an RTO enjoyer in chat. I love RTO. I want RTO too.
I have to find my last question.
I will answer this kind of as a joke. What is your opinion as a dev on Arachne? Do you personally want her kit reworked for SMITE 2, or do you think she is fine? I am a horrible person, so I enjoyed Arachne's original kit where you made a bunch of eggs and you pulled people in, and then you hopped on their back and you were untargetable, and it was very unfun to play against. Yeah. We should not do that, but that was my personal favorite version of Arachne. I think that Arachne, the problem, speaking really now, the problem with Arachne is that she has always been an incredibly strong character, and no one believes it. Like she was at like 60% win rate, and people were telling us to buff her, right? Because she wasn't strong enough. So I think the hard thing about her current kit is just you don't feel how strong she is, and I don't know what it is about her because I'm no genius designer or anything. I'm sure that our designers have a better idea about that. So I would guess that she probably needs some tweaks, but I don't think she needs a whole new kit. I think that people generally like how she plays right now. I think that it actually is a very balanceable kit. I think the most annoying thing is her like get out of jail free card on her ult. Seems like it's up a lot. And she's encouraged to use it more as a get out than a get in, which I think is the way it was initially intended. But I'm not the designer. I'm not going to be the person that makes the changes to Arachne if we make any changes. So, something we'll consider as we get around to her eventually.
Let's see. All right, I'm going to take this one. Would you all consider adding god synergy abilities like Marvel Rivals?
I have not played Marvel Rivals, but this is the thing where like 2 gods can work together to do a thing. I don't know.
I'm on the fence about it. I think it's cool, but I think one of the things that I love the most about SMITE is that there's intrinsic synergy between characters, just like based off of CC, based off of all the characters' innate abilities already. Like one of my favorite things about SMITE is like, oh, a Sobek's on the team, I'm gonna pick Ra, and then every time somebody plucks somebody, I'm gonna snipe them, and it just feels so great, right?
Yeah, I think kind of what you're saying is kind of what I was gonna get at too, which is kind of like these emergent teamwork things, and the whole game is built around that, right? It's like the first time the light bulb goes off in your head when there's an Odin and a Zeus in the same game, and you're like, I can trap them in the circle, and then the circle can just be lightning. Like, it's great, right? And so I think that it's like, I personally, as a player, would rather have those fun moments of discovery where it's like these abilities interact in neat, fun ways versus the prescriptive 2 things work together,
Yeah. I also think, I don't know, in my opinion, the system is cool, but there are also some drawbacks. Like in Marvel Rivals, like if there's a Groot in my team, am I trolling if I don't pick a Rocket Raccoon to team up, right? Like
maybe, I don't know.
I feel like it's cool that they allow that playstyle, but then if that becomes like the thing that you have to do, and I don't feel like playing one of the characters that's in the team up, I don't know, it just feels bad to me.
Yeah, that's fair. It's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that game does. I'm sure it will be massive because it is a Marvel game, and I was joking with somebody about this. I don't know if you saw the story about how somebody embezzled like $130 million from the development of that game. Yeah. So the studio that's making that is also making the Destiny mobile game, and somebody embezzled $130 million as part of the development of this. And the joke I was making was like how big must your budget be if $130 million can go missing and you don't notice it, right? Like if $130 million went missing here, like we would notice. Like we would probably not be here anymore, right? So I think it's just they put a lot of money into that game. They're launching with a crossover with Fortnite. You know, I mean, like obviously we'll see how the game does, but looks interesting.
Yeah, cool. All right, chat. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us on Monday for Titan Talk. Again, if you weren't here at the top of the show, this is our only show this week. It is Thanksgiving week here in the U.S., so we're taking Wednesday and Friday off.
And just to be clear, because people are still confused, hopefully update is coming out later today.
Yes.
We're hoping, in a couple hours here. There's a chance that the last few things we're working through don't get done and it comes out tomorrow instead, but we are targeting later today.
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to go run to my desk as soon as I hit in stream to see if we can get an update. But again, pay attention to all of our official social media channels. We will let you know as soon as we have more info on firm release timing for Closed Alpha 7. Until then, I hope all of those in the U.S. have a happy Thanksgiving week. I hope you enjoy time with your family, hopefully playing some Smite too. And until then, we will see you next week for the next episode of Titan Talk, and we'll see you on the Battleground.
Yeah, we'll probably be showing off some new gods next week. Right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're back into it. So.
Gosh, it's so fast, right? So at some point, Aphrodite, Medusa, Pele next week.
Yep, should be a good week.
Game. Cool.
All right,
chat. Thanks so much for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Peace.